The soft beeping of the sensor array broke the quiet hum of the Endeavour's bridge. Commander Peter Nash lifted his head from the daily reports, his eyes moving to the main screen where a strange pattern of lights pulsed steadily. After 15 years of deep space patrol, he had learned to trust his instincts, and something about this signal felt different. "Lisa, what are we looking at?" he asked, turning to Science Officer Lisa Martinez, who was already running her fingers across her console with practiced speed. "Sir, I'm picking up an energy signature from the outer edges of the Kuiper Belt. It's like nothing we've seen before," she replied, her brown eyes narrowing as she studied the readings. "The pattern is too regular to be natural." Nash stood up from his chair, walking closer to the main view screen. The signal's pattern reminded him of a heartbeat, steady, rhythmic, and very much alive. Could it be another Earth ship? Lisa shook her head. "No, sir. The energy signature doesn't match any known human technology. This is something else." The bridge crew fell silent, the weight of what this might mean settling over them. Humanity had wondered about alien life for centuries, but in the 50 years since achieving faster-than-light travel, they had found nothing but empty planets and ancient ruins. "Send a message to Earth Command," Nash ordered, his voice calm despite the excitement building in his chest, "and begin standard first contact protocols. Let's not take any chances." As the crew worked, Nash couldn't help but remember all the science fiction stories he had read as a kid. Humanity had spread across the solar system, established colonies on Mars and Europa, and even sent ships to nearby star systems, but they had never met another living civilization. Hours passed as they approached the source of the signal. The crew stayed at their stations, too excited to take their scheduled breaks. Lisa kept updating them with new readings, each one confirming that they were dealing with artificial technology far beyond their understanding. "Commander," called out Communications Officer Alan Reed, "I'm receiving a response to our greeting message. It's being transmitted in perfect English." Nash straightened in his chair. "Put it through." The view screen flickered, and a face appeared that made everyone on the bridge catch their breath. The alien had smooth, silvery skin that seemed to shimmer like liquid metal. Its eyes were large and completely black, but somehow managed to convey intelligence and curiosity. "Greetings, Earth vessel," the alien spoke, its mouth moving in perfect sync with the words. "I am Supreme Commander Ixel of the Zarx Confederation. We have been studying your civilization for some time." Nash stood tall, very aware that he was representing all of humanity in this moment. "I am Commander Peter Nash of the Earth Defense Fleet vessel Endeavour. We come in peace and welcome the opportunity for dialogue." The alien's expression shifted into what might have been a smile. "Your response is appreciated, Commander. We have found your species quite fascinating, particularly your approach to technology. Though primitive by our standards, there is an interesting quality to your methods." Lisa's console beeped again, and her eyes widened as she read the new data. "Sir, they're dropping some kind of cloaking field. You need to see this." The view screen split, showing both Ixel's face and a view of space that took everyone's breath away. A massive ship had appeared, easily 20 times the size of the Endeavour. Its surface was smooth and seemed to flow like quicksilver, with no visible seams or joints. "We would be honored to share some of our knowledge with humanity," Ixel continued. "We are particularly interested in studying your methods of controlling nuclear fusion. Despite its primitive nature, there is something unique about your approach." Nash noticed something in Ixel's tone when he said primitive, not quite condescension, but something close to it. Still, the opportunity was too important to let his pride get in the way. "We would be grateful for any knowledge you're willing to share," Nash replied carefully. "And we're happy to discuss our own technological developments within the limits of our security protocols." Ixel's expression changed slightly. "Security protocols? Against whom?" "We are the only advanced civilization in this sector of space. It's standard procedure," Nash explained, feeling a slight unease at the alien's reaction. "All Earth ships maintain certain security measures, regardless of the situation. How? Pragmatic. Ixel responded after a pause. We will transmit coordinates for a proper meeting. Our scientists are eager to begin the exchange of information. After the transmission ended, the bridge remained quiet for several long moments. It was Lisa who finally spoke up. Did anyone else think they seemed a little too interested in our fusion technology? She asked, looking up from her readings. And these energy signatures? They're advanced, yes, but there's something odd about them. They're almost too perfect, too clean. Nash nodded slowly. Keep analyzing everything you can. I want to know more about our new friends before we get too comfortable. Ellen, send a complete report to Earth Command. Include Lisa's concerns about their interest in our technology. As the crew carry out his orders, Nash stared at the massive alien ship on the screen. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries. First contact with an advanced alien civilization. But as he studied the flowing silver surface of the Zarx vessel, he couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. Sir, Lisa called out suddenly, I'm detecting unusual radiation patterns from their ship. It's as if they're scanning our weapon systems. Nash's uneasy feeling grew stronger. Keep monitoring them, but don't make it obvious. Whatever their intentions are, we need to be prepared for anything. Humanity has worked too hard to reach the stars to take unnecessary risks now. The Endeavour maintained its position as Earth Command processed their report and prepared for the first official meeting with the Zarx. On the bridge, Nash watched his crew work with pride. Whatever came next, he knew humanity would face it the way they had faced every challenge in their history, with determination, creativity, and an unwavering spirit. Little did they know, these very qualities were exactly what had caught the Zarx's attention, and not for the reasons they claimed. As the aliens studied the humans from their massive ship, they were about to learn that sometimes what appears primitive on the surface can hide unexpected depths of sophistication and danger. 3 weeks after first contact, the massive United Earth government building in Geneva buzzed with activity. Engineer Andrew Carter walked through its clean white halls, his security badge catching the morning light that streamed through the tall windows. He couldn't help but feel nervous. After all, it wasn't every day that someone got picked to work with alien technology. Next to him walked Mary Bennett, a physicist whose work on fusion containment had caught the Zarx's attention. Her red hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and she carried a tablet filled with equations that she'd been studying all morning. I still can't believe they called our fusion reactors primitive, Marie said, shaking her head. We've managed to make them smaller and more efficient than anyone thought possible 20 years ago. Andrew nodded in agreement. That's what bothers me. If their technology is so advanced, why are they so interested in our primitive methods? They reached the new Zarx embassy, a strange building that seemed to flow like liquid metal, much like their ships. 2 human security guards and 1 tall Zarx stood at the entrance. The alien's silvery skin rippled slightly as it scanned their badges with its black eyes. Welcome, the Zarx said in that oddly perfect English they all used. I am Technical Advisor Rel. Please follow me to the exchange chamber. The inside of the embassy was unlike anything Andrew had ever seen. The walls seemed alive, shifting with patterns of light that moved like waves. Rel led them to a large room filled with holographic displays showing various pieces of Earth technology. We find your species' approach to technology quite unique, Rel said, stopping in front of a display showing the inner workings of a fusion reactor. You often choose the most dangerous and unstable methods to achieve your goals. Marie frowned slightly. Dangerous. Our containment systems have failed only once in the past decade, and that was during an earthquake. Precisely, Rel replied, its silver skin rippling in what might have been amusement. You build safeguards upon safeguards, layers of protection against catastrophic failure. Our approach is to simply prevent the possibility of failure entirely. Andrew studied the alien's face, trying to read its expression. But sometimes the riskier path leads to better results. Trial and error is how we learn. Indeed. Rel turned to face them fully. We are particularly interested in studying your weapon systems, such primitive yet effective designs. The way Rel said primitive made Andrew's skin crawl. He shared a quick glance with Marie, who seemed equally uncomfortable. I'm afraid weapon systems aren't part of our exchange agreement, Marie said carefully. We're here to discuss civilian technology only. Of course, Rel replied smoothly, though the distinction between civilian and military technology seems arbitrary. After all, any sufficiently advanced technology can be used as a weapon, can it not? Before either human could respond, another Zarx entered the room. This one wore what appeared to be some kind of uniform, though it seemed to shift and change like everything else about them. I am military observer Kex, the new alien announced. I hope you don't mind if I observe your exchange. We find human problem-solving methods fascinating. Over the next few hours, Andrew and Marie shared their knowledge about Earth's fusion technology, carefully staying within the limits set by their security briefing. The Zarx, in turn, explained some of their own power generation methods, though Andrew noticed they kept many details vague. During a break, while Rel and Kex were discussing something in their own language, Marie pulled Andrew aside. Have you noticed how they keep steering the conversation back to our containment failures? She whispered. They seem more interested in how our systems fail than how they work. Andrew nodded slowly. And they keep asking about our backup systems and failsafes. It's like they're trying to understand our worst-case scenarios. Maybe that's normal for their kind of scientific exchange, Marie suggested, but she didn't sound convinced. Their discussion was interrupted by Rel's return. The alien carried what looked like a small silver sphere. We would like to demonstrate one of our simpler technologies. This is a power core similar to your fusion reactors, though far more stable. The sphere floated above Rel's hand, glowing with a soft blue light. Andrew leaned closer, his engineer's mind trying to understand how it worked. The containment field is generated by the core itself, Rel explained. There is no possibility of failure because the system is self-correcting at the quantum level. Marie studied the readings on her tablet. But what happens if the field is disrupted by an outside force? Our containment systems are designed to handle unexpected interference. Unexpected interference? Kex asked, showing sudden interest. What kind of interference do you plan for? Everything we can think of, Andrew replied, growing more uneasy with each question. Natural disasters, power surges, physical damage, electromagnetic pulses. We have to be prepared for anything. The two Zarx exchanged what might have been meaningful looks. How very thorough, Rel said. Though such extensive precautions must make your systems needlessly complex. As the day went on, Andrew noticed more subtle things that didn't quite add up. The Zarx seemed almost frustrated by humanity's redundant safety systems. Every time Marie mentioned a backup system or emergency protocol, their alien hosts would quickly change the subject. At the end of the session, as they were leaving the embassy, Andrew caught Marie's arm. Did you see how they reacted when you mentioned our electromagnetic shielding? It was like they were surprised we even thought about that. Marie nodded. And did you notice? They never once showed us how their systems handle unexpected problems. It's all about prevention, never about adaptation. Maybe that's why they're so interested in our primitive technology, Andrew mused. We plan for things to go wrong because they usually do, but they seem to think they can make perfect systems that never fail. As they walked back through the Geneva streets, both humans were lost in thought. The exchange had left them with more questions than answers, and a growing sense that the Zarx's interest in Earth technology might not be as benign as it seemed. What neither of them knew was that at that very moment, in the liquid metal building behind them, the Zarx were having their own discussion about humans, and coming to some very concerning conclusions about this young species that seemed to thrive on chaos and imperfection. Ryan Cooper wasn't supposed to find anything unusual in the Zarx database. As a junior technician at the Earth Defense Fleet headquarters, his job was simply to organize the data the aliens had shared. But as he stared at his screen late one night, something caught his eye. "That's weird," he muttered, leaning closer to his monitor. He had been sorting through files about previous civilizations the Zarx had contacted when he noticed a pattern. Every species they had helped seemed to disappear from their records after about 10 years of contact. Ryan rubbed his tired eyes and took a sip of his cold coffee. The office was almost empty at this late hour, which gave him the courage to dig a little deeper. He opened another file, then another, his heart beating faster with each discovery. "Hey, what are you still doing here?" a voice asked, making him jump. Security Chief Amanda Wells stood in the doorway, her dark uniform neat despite the late hour. Ryan had always been a little afraid of her. She had a reputation for being extremely thorough in her work. "Chief Wells," he stammered, "I found something strange in the alien records. Could you take a look?" Amanda walked over, her boots silent on the carpet. She leaned over his shoulder, her expression changing as she looked at his screen. "Show me everything," she said quietly. Ryan pulled up file after file, explaining what he had found. "See these dates. The Talarians made contact with the Zarx 50 years ago. They shared technology, just like we're doing. But after 8 years, there are no more mentions of them. The same thing happened to the Kreth, the Voloks, and 3 other species." Amanda's face grew more serious with each example. "And look at this pattern," she said, pointing to a particular set of data. Each time, the Zarx were especially interested in their weapons technology. "But they called all of it primitive," Ryan said, "just like they keep saying about our technology." Amanda straightened up and pulled out her secure phone. "I need to make some calls. Don't leave, and don't tell anyone else about this yet." Within an hour, the quiet office had become a hub of activity. Commander Peter Nash and Science Officer Lisa Martinez from the Endeavour had been called in, along with Engineer Andrew Carter and Physicist Mary Bennett from the Geneva Exchange Program. "The Zarx aren't studying our technology because it's primitive," Lisa said, looking at Ryan's findings. "They're studying it because it's unpredictable." Andrew nodded eagerly. "That's why they were so interested in our backup systems and failure protocols. Their technology is all about perfect control, but ours is built to handle chaos," Marie finished. "We expect things to go wrong, so we plan for it. But they don't think that way." Commander Nash paced the room, his face troubled. "But what happened to those other civilizations? Why did they disappear from the records?" Amanda pulled up another file on the main screen. "I think I found a clue. Look at these combat reports we decoded. The Zarx tried to invade the Talarians, but something went wrong. The Talarians' primitive weapons did unexpected things to the Zarx shields. Their perfect systems couldn't handle imperfect attacks," Lisa said slowly, "just like they can't understand why we build backup systems and failsafes." Ryan, who had been quiet for a while, spoke up. "But if that's true, why did the other civilizations lose? And why are the Zarx still here?" The room fell silent as they all considered this question. It was Marie who finally answered. "Because they learned," she said grimly. "Each time they found a civilization with primitive technology, they studied it, learned its weaknesses, and then attacked. They're not sharing technology. They're gathering intelligence." Commander Nash walked to the window, looking out at the night sky where Zarx ships now regularly patrolled. "They think they're studying our weaknesses, but they're actually revealing their own." "Sir?" Ryan asked, not quite understanding. "The Zarx believe in perfect systems, perfect control," Nash explained. "But humanity, we're masters of chaos. We build things expecting them to break. We plan for failure. We thrive on imperfection." Lisa pulled up some data from the Endeavour's first scan of the Zarx ship. "Their shields are incredibly powerful, but they're designed to handle very specific types of attacks. They've never faced anything like our nuclear weapons or our electromagnetic pulses, because those are too primitive for them to even consider a threat. Andrew added, getting excited. They're so focused on perfection that they don't understand the power of imperfect solutions. Amanda was already typing on her secure terminal. I'm sending everything to Earth Command. We need to prepare before they realize what we've discovered. No, Nash said firmly. We need to let them think we're still ignorant. Let them keep believing our technology is primitive and harmless. It's our best advantage. The group worked through the night, carefully documenting everything they had found, while maintaining their regular routines during the day. They knew they were in a race against time. The Zarx would eventually make their move, just as they had with every other civilization they'd encountered. But this time would be different. This time, they were facing a species that didn't believe in perfect solutions, a species that had turned unpredictability into an art form, a species that had survived and thrived precisely because they expected things to go wrong. As Ryan finally headed home in the early morning hours, he looked up at the sky where a Zarx ship glinted in the dawn light. The aliens thought they were studying humanity's weaknesses, but they had missed something crucial. Sometimes, what looks like a weakness is actually a strength in disguise. The Zarx were about to learn that humanity's primitive technology wasn't primitive at all. It was just a different kind of advanced. And in the chaos of real combat, different could be deadly. The attack came at dawn, Earth time. The Zarx ships appeared above the Mars colony without warning, their silver hulls gleaming in the pale sunlight. Captain Sharon Lewis of the defense station Sierra watched in horror as the aliens dropped their friendly pretense and revealed their true intentions. All hands to battle stations, she ordered, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Get those civilian ships behind the defense screen now. The Mars colony had always been humanity's most vulnerable settlement. Unlike Earth, it didn't have a full planetary defense system. The Zarx clearly thought this made it an easy target. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Ma'am, they're broadcasting a demand for surrender, her communications officer reported. Sharon's lips tightened into a thin line. Tell them exactly what Commander Nash told us to say. The message was simple. We accept your superior technology will defeat us. We only ask for time to evacuate our civilians. The Zarx response came quickly. You have 1 hour. Your primitive defenses cannot harm us. Resistance would be pointless. Sharon allowed herself a small smile. The aliens' arrogance was exactly what Earth Command had been counting on. Launch defense pattern Delta, she ordered. Let's show them just how primitive we are. The first wave of missiles launched from the surface of Mars looked old and clumsy. They moved slowly, their trajectories easy to predict. The Zarx ships didn't even bother to move, letting their advanced shields handle the primitive weapons. That was their first mistake. The missiles exploded well before reaching the alien ships, creating a cloud of what looked like debris. The Zarx shields glowed briefly, easily handling the small impacts. They took the bait, Sharon said quietly. Launched the second wave. The debris cloud suddenly came alive with thousands of tiny devices, simple electromagnetic pulse generators that Earth's engineers had built using technology so basic the Zarx hadn't even bothered to scan for it. The alien shields, designed to handle powerful energy weapons, had no defense against such primitive attacks. The pulses weren't strong enough to disable the ships, but they created tiny fluctuations in the perfect shield patterns. Nuclear launch authorized, Sharon announced. Fire. The nukes were old technology, the kind humanity had been using for centuries. The Zarx had studied them and dismissed them as too primitive to be a threat, but they had never seen them used quite like this. The nuclear missiles shot through the gaps created by the EMP devices, their primitive propulsion systems pushing them through spaces in the shields that more advanced weapons could never have fit through. When they detonated, the explosions were far from perfect or controlled, and that's exactly what made them so effective. Direct hits on 3 enemy ships, her weapons officer called out. Their shields are failing. The Zarx fleet reeled in shock. Their perfect systems had never encountered weapons designed to be imperfect. As they struggled to adapt, Sharon launched the next phase of the attack. "All fighters, you are clear to engage," she ordered. "Remember your training. Be unpredictable." Earth's small fighter craft swarmed out from behind Mars' moons. They were piloted by humans who had been trained to do exactly what the Zarx thought impossible, to act without perfect patterns or predictable strategies. The alien ships, their shields weakened and their systems confused by the primitive attacks, found themselves unable to track the chaotic movements of the human fighters. Each pilot flew differently, used different tactics, made choices that no logical computer could predict. "Ma'am," her sensor officer called out, "we're detecting power fluctuations in the enemy ships. Their systems are trying to compensate for too many variables at once." Sharon nodded grimly. The Zarx had built their technology on the principle of perfect control. But humanity had learned long ago that in real combat, perfect control was impossible. They had built their weapons and trained their soldiers to thrive in chaos. The battle lasted less than 2 hours. By the end, 4 Zarx ships had been destroyed, and the others had retreated in disarray. The Mars colony was safe, protected by the very primitiveness that the aliens had dismissed. As Sharon logged her battle report, her communications officer intercepted a transmission from the retreating Zarx fleet to their homeworld. The translation made her smile. "Humans do not fight as expected. Their patterns make no sense. Their weapons are crude but bypass our defenses, request immediate reinforcements, and new combat protocols. Send everything to Earth Command," Sharon ordered. "They'll want to know their strategy worked. And get me Commander Nash on the secure channel." When Nash's face appeared on her screen, she could see he was already getting reports from the battle. "It worked exactly like you predicted," she told him. "Their perfect systems couldn't handle our imperfect attacks." Nash nodded seriously. "Good work, Captain. But this is just the beginning. They'll adapt their tactics now that they know what we can do." "Let them try," Sharon replied confidently. "The more they try to predict us, the more they'll realize they can't. That's humanity's real strength. We're at our best when nothing makes sense." As she ended the transmission, Sharon looked out at the red surface of Mars, where crews were already repairing the minimal damage from the battle. The Zarx would be back, probably with new weapons and tactics designed to counter what they'd seen today. But they still wouldn't understand the basic truth that humanity had learned through countless centuries of warfare and survival. The most dangerous enemy isn't the one with the most advanced weapons, but the one who can turn their own weaknesses into strengths. The Zarx had sought to study humanity's primitive technology. Instead, they had learned a harsh lesson about the power of imperfection. And this was only the beginning of their education. Engineer Daniel Wright hadn't slept in 2 days, but he couldn't stop working. Not when he was so close to a breakthrough. The captured Zarx technology lay spread across his lab table, its silvery surface reflecting the bright laboratory lights. "You should take a break," Mary Bennett said from the doorway. The physicist had been helping him study the alien devices since the battle at Mars. "You won't help anyone if you collapse." Daniel shook his head, his eyes fixed on the holographic display above his workbench. "I almost have it. Look at this." He pointed to where human and Zarx energy patterns crossed on the screen. "Their technology isn't just advanced, it's completely opposite to ours." Marie walked over, her eyes widening as she studied the display. "What do you mean?" "We build things to handle chaos, right? But they build things to create perfect order." Daniel's fingers flew across the keyboard. "What if we could combine both approaches? Use their perfection to enhance our chaos?" Before Marie could answer, Admiral Eric Matthews walked into the lab. Since the Mars attack, he had been coordinating Earth's defense strategy. Dark circles under his eyes showed he'd been sleeping as little as Daniel. "Please tell me you have good news," the Admiral said. "The Zarx fleet is regrouping. Our scouts report they're bringing in ships from across their empire. Daniel straightened up, suddenly energized despite his exhaustion. Sir, I think we can do better than good news. I think we can win this war. He pulled up a new display showing a modified human weapon design. We've been studying their technology all wrong. We thought they were just more advanced than us. But that's not it. They're different. Marie nodded, catching on to his idea. Their whole civilization is built on the idea of perfect control. That's why our chaotic attacks worked so well at Mars. Their systems couldn't handle unpredictable variables. Exactly, Daniel said. But look what happens when we combine their control systems with our chaos. He ran a simulation on the screen. The result made Admiral Matthews lean forward in surprise. Is that possible? The Admiral asked. Daniel grinned. We already built a prototype. Ready to test it. In the underground testing facility, they watched as Daniel's new hybrid weapon powered up. It looked like a standard human missile, but its surface rippled with flowing silver patterns like Zarx technology. The outer shell uses their perfect control systems, Daniel explained. But the core is pure human chaos, nuclear reactions, electromagnetic pulses, and some new tricks we developed. The test target was a captured piece of Zarx shield technology. When the weapon launched, it moved with impossible grace, its flight pattern both perfectly controlled and completely unpredictable. The shield never had a chance. The weapon slipped through its defenses like they weren't even there. Admiral Matthews didn't waste any time. Within hours, Operation Thunderstrike was born. Every shipyard in the solar system began producing Daniel's hybrid weapons while the Earth Defense Fleet prepared for battle. The Zarx think they know what to expect now. Admiral Matthews told his fleet commanders. They've studied our tactics from Mars. They think they can counter our primitive weapons. Let's show them how wrong they are. The Earth fleet gathered near Jupiter's orbit, waiting for the enemy. They didn't have to wait long. The Zarx arrived in force, hundreds of their silver ships sliding out of faster-than-light travel. All ships, battle formation. Admiral Matthews ordered from his flagship. Remember your training. Be unpredictable, but work together. The Zarx struck first, their weapons blazing with perfect precision. But Earth's ships scattered in chaos, each captain following their own random pattern while staying part of the larger strategy. Launch hybrid weapons, the Admiral commanded. Let's see how they handle perfected chaos. Daniel watched from the flagship's bridge as his creations launched. The weapons moved like living things, their paths impossible to predict yet somehow perfectly controlled. The Zarx shields, designed to handle either perfect order or complete chaos, couldn't cope with both at once. Ship after ship fell to the hybrid attacks. The aliens tried to adapt, but their rigid thinking worked against them. They couldn't understand how humans had taken their perfect technology and turned it into a weapon of controlled chaos. Sir, a sensor officer called out, we're detecting energy surges in their fleet. Their systems are trying to find patterns in our attacks. But there are no patterns to find. Marie finished from her station. They're overloading their own shields, trying to make sense of what we're doing. The battle raged for hours. Human ships took heavy damage, but they kept fighting, each captain using different tactics, never falling into predictable patterns. The hybrid weapons struck again and again, each hit proving that the combination of human chaos and alien precision was devastatingly effective. Finally, the Zarx fleet began to retreat. Their perfect formation broke apart as ships fled in different directions, their commanders unable to cope with warfare that defied their fundamental understanding of how combat should work. As the last enemy ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel, cheers erupted across the Earth fleet. But Admiral Matthews kept his expression serious. "Good work, everyone," he said. "But this isn't over. They'll be back, and they'll try to adapt to what we did today." Daniel nodded, already thinking of improvements to his hybrid weapons. Let them try. The more they study us, the more they'll realize that humanity's greatest strength is that we can't be predicted. We take what looks like weakness and turn it into power. Marie added, and now we can use their own technology against them. Perfect control combined with perfect chaos. They'll never see it coming. As the fleet regrouped and began repairs, Admiral Matthews looked out at the stars where the enemy had vanished. The Zarx had thought humans were primitive because they embraced chaos and imperfection. Now they were learning that this supposed weakness was actually humanity's greatest strength. The tide of war had turned, but the final battle was still to come. And when it did, humanity would be ready to show the galaxy that true advancement wasn't about achieving perfection. It was about learning to thrive in imperfection. Lieutenant Catherine Barnes stood at her station on the bridge of the Endeavour, watching as the massive fleet of Earth ships gathered near the edge of the Kuiper Belt. This was where it had all started, where humanity had first met the Zarx. Now, after months of bitter fighting, they had returned for the final battle. "All ships report ready, Commander," she announced to Peter Nash, who sat in his command chair looking more tired but more determined than ever. "The Zarx will be here soon," Nash said. "Their entire remaining fleet is coming. This is where we end this war." The human fleet had grown since the first battles. Ships of all sizes filled the space around them, each one equipped with Daniel Wright's hybrid weapons. Engineers had worked day and night to combine human unpredictability with Zarx precision, creating weapons that neither species could have made alone. "Sir," Catherine called out suddenly, "I'm picking up something strange in the alien database we captured. I think I know why they really attacked us." Nash turned to her. "What did you find?" "According to these records, the Zarx haven't created any new technology in over 10,000 years, Catherine explained, her eyes moving across the screen. "They've only been copying and perfecting the same designs over and over. That's why they kept calling us primitive," Lisa Martinez added from her science station. "They don't know how to innovate anymore. They can only make perfect versions of things they already have." Before they could discuss this further, the space in front of their fleet lit up with hundreds of flashes. The Zarx had arrived, their silver ships forming a perfect battle line. "They're broadcasting," Alan Reed reported from communications. Supreme Commander Ixel's face appeared on the main screen, looking less confident than during their first meeting. "This conflict is pointless," the alien said. "Surrender now, and we will make your species part of our perfect order." Nash stood up from his chair. "We have a counteroffer," he replied. "Leave Earth space and never return. This is your only warning." "You still don't understand," Ixel said. "Your chaos cannot defeat our perfection. We have studied all your tactics. We are prepared for everything." Nash actually smiled at this. "That's exactly your problem. You think everything can be predicted and controlled, but humans know better. Sometimes the best solution is to embrace the chaos." He turned to his crew. "All ships, execute Operation Wildcard." Catherine watched as the human fleet broke apart, each ship following the random attack pattern they had been assigned. The Zarx fleet's perfect formation tried to adjust, but they couldn't predict where each ship would go. "Launch hybrid missiles," Nash ordered. "Full spread." The new weapons shot out from every Earth ship, their silver surfaces gleaming. But unlike in previous battles, these missiles suddenly split apart, each piece becoming a separate weapon. The Zarx shields, programmed to expect specific attack patterns, couldn't handle the countless smaller threats coming from all directions. "Their shields are failing," Lisa reported. "The random attacks are overloading their systems." The space between the fleets became a chaos of explosions and energy beams. Earth ships took heavy damage but kept fighting, each captain using different tactics that the Zarx computers couldn't predict. "Sir," Catherine called out, "I'm detecting massive power fluctuations in their flagship. I think their systems are actually crashing from trying to process too many variables at once." The massive Zarx ships began to lose power, their perfect formations breaking apart. Their weapons, designed to hit perfectly predicted targets, couldn't lock onto the randomly moving Earth vessels. "They're sending another transmission," Alan announced. This time, Ixal looked shaken. "How? How can you function in such chaos? There is no pattern, no order to your attacks." "That's because we don't need patterns to be strong," Nash replied. "Humanity learned long ago that the universe is chaos. We don't try to control it. We adapt to it. That's what makes us different from you." Different. Ixal seemed to consider this word carefully. Perhaps we have forgotten something important. Our pursuit of perfection has made us rigid, unable to change. The battle slowly came to a stop as the remaining Zarx ships powered down their weapons. On the main screen, Ixal looked tired, almost sad. "For 10,000 years, we have sought to perfect every technology we found," the alien leader said. "But we stopped creating. We stopped adapting. We forgot how to embrace chaos and find new solutions." Catherine spoke up from her station. "That's why you attacked other species, isn't it? You were looking for new ideas to perfect, because you couldn't come up with any of your own." "Yes," Ixal admitted. "We saw your primitive technology and thought we could perfect it, make it part of our order. We never understood that its imperfection was what made it powerful." Nash stepped forward. "Then maybe it's time for both our species to learn from each other. We can teach you how to embrace chaos, and maybe you can teach us about finding order within it." The war ended that day, not with the destruction of either side, but with a revelation. The Zarx learned that their pursuit of perfection had become their greatest weakness, while humanity's ability to thrive in chaos had become their greatest strength. As the Earth fleet began the long journey home, Catherine looked at the data one last time. "It's interesting," she said to Commander Nash. "They thought they were studying our primitive technology, but what they really discovered was that progress isn't about making things perfect." Nash nodded. "It's about being able to adapt, to find new solutions, to turn apparent weakness into strength. That's what makes humanity special. We're the unexpected masters of destruction, not because we're the most powerful, but because we're the most unpredictable." The stars stretched out before them as the fleet headed back to Earth. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. True advancement wasn't about achieving perfection, but about learning to thrive in an imperfect universe. And humanity, with all its chaos and unpredictability, had proven to be the perfect teachers for that lesson.